The 28th Annual Conference of the Parties, COP28, to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change is set to take place in Dubai, addressing urgent climate issues amid devastating 2023 weather events. The focus includes the first global stocktake, GST, to assess progress on climate action, revealing that greenhouse gas emission pathways are off track to meet Paris Agreement targets. Disagreements persist on equitable approaches and financial responsibilities. COP28 aims to establish a global goal on adaptation, a loss and damage fund, and address contentious issues like fossil fuels and adaptation finance, marking a crucial point in global climate politics.
The 28th Conference of the Parties, COP28, aims to address climate change and fulfill the 2015 Paris Agreement's commitment to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Despite unanimous agreement, global emissions have increased by 1.2% from 2021 to 22, putting the world on track for a 2.5 to 3 degrees Celsius temperature rise by the century's end. COP28 focuses on compensating rapidly industrialized nations, promoting cleaner energy, and aiding countries facing climate disasters. Challenges include mistrust, deglobalization sentiments, and political repercussions. Key issues include the global stocktakes conclusion and the operationalization of the loss and damage fund, emphasizing the need for COP28 to translate agreements into definitive actions.
The maritime domain faces evolving security challenges, with unconventional threats such as illegal fishing, climate change impact, and natural disasters. Littoral states in Asia and Africa lack coordination and equal law enforcement capabilities to combat maritime threats effectively. India's Maritime Vision 2030 and Dhaka's Indo-Pacific document propose creative models focusing on economic development and resource protection. However, challenges like illegal fishing persist due to lenient regulations, lax law enforcement, and harmful subsidies. India's Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative seeks collective solutions, but implementing a collaborative strategy requires improved interoperability and alignment with international law, posing a challenge to the autonomy of developing nations in the global south.
The proposal for an All-India Judicial Service, AIJS, by President Draupadi Murmu, aiming to diversify the judiciary, reignites debates on its feasibility. The Union Law Minister revealed a lack of consensus, with only 2 high courts supporting the idea. The current recruitment system through high courts and public service commissions, allowing for reservation and understanding of local conditions, is seen as more conducive to diversity. Constitutional amendments are required for AIJs, but resistance from states, varying legal education standards, and uncertainties in career progression may hinder its attractiveness to young lawyers.
The Maratha community's demand for reservation in higher education and public employment is analyzed in the context of urban and rural crisis, particularly the disappearance of well-paid jobs since the late 1990s. The decline in job opportunities in large-scale manufacturing industries and retrenchment in urban areas have affected the socially dominant Marathas, who historically held a significant share of government jobs. Economic liberalization, the rise of contractual jobs, and a shrinking public sector have intensified competition among Marathas. The return of workers to villages and reduced migration exacerbate the rural crisis, leading to the current mobilization for reservation.
Karnataka, with a power generation history of over 100 years, faces challenges in transmission and supply quality. Despite an installed capacity of over 31,000 megawatts, the state experienced a daily power shortfall of 40 to 50 MU due to production issues, blamed on wet coal and improper maintenance during the monsoon. Barter power trading and Section 11 imposition helped overcome the shortfall, but the recurring strategy reveals a lack of planning for power shortages. Safety concerns arise from poor infrastructure maintenance, highlighted by recent electrocutions. While strides are made in renewable energy, Karnataka's power sector needs to address network strengthening and ensure uninterrupted supply.
A data analysis outlines the power generation mix of BRICS countries from 2000 to 2022. China's share of fossil fuels reduced from 82% in 2000 to 65% in 2022, but it remains the world's largest emitter. India's transition to clean energy has been slow, with its share rising from 17% to 23%. Brazil and Ethiopia are the only BRICS nations where clean energy contributes over 90%. The analysis also breaks down power generation in select Indian states, highlighting variations and changes in the use of fossil fuels.
The article discusses the importance of transparency in political funding for democracy and the ongoing challenge to electoral bonds in India. It highlights the historical context of political funding regulations in countries like the United States and the European Union, emphasizing the need for disclosure and limits on contributions to prevent corruption and maintain public confidence. The author calls for a separate legislation in India mandating full disclosure of political donations, immediate reporting to the Election Commission for large donations, and auditing of political party accounts by an independent authority to strengthen democracy.
The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, has directed banks and non-banking financial companies, NBFCs, to increase capital reserves for risk weights by 25 percentage points. This move aims to address the rising trend in unsecured personal loans and credit cards. The risk weight for consumer credit exposure, including personal loans and credit cards, has been raised to 125%. The RBI's concern is about the high growth in certain components of consumer credit, and the increased risk weights are intended to temper lenders' consumer loan growth. This adjustment is expected to impact capital adequacy, interest rates, and profitability for banks and NBFCs.
Jonathan Koshi Varghese discusses the multifaceted legacy of Edward Said amidst the Israel-Hamas conflict. Said, known for his academic work critiquing Western perceptions of the East, portrayed himself not just as a Columbia University professor but also as an amateur intellectual, unapologetically Palestinian. His exploration of Gaza through Sarah Roy's perspective highlighted Israeli colonialism's impact. Varghese highlights Said's disillusionment with the Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, post-Oslo Accords, and his efforts to forge fresh alliances for Gaza's reconstruction. Through dialogues with Daniel Barenboim, Said advocated for Jewish-Palestinian dialogues, intertwining art, culture, and socio-political conditions in the discourse. Varghese urges revisiting Said's unyielding perspectives amidst current Gaza devastation.
Israel's continuous bombardment of Gaza, including the use of tritunnel-filled bombs, white phosphorus, and herbicidal warfare, is causing severe environmental damage with far-reaching consequences. The toxic substances released during bombings contaminate soil, water, and air, while the destruction of buildings generates hazardous waste. Israel's occupation has further harmed the environment by replacing olive trees with pine trees, conducting aerial herbicide spraying, and controlling water access. The ecological damage not only affects Gazans' health and livelihoods but also poses risks to shared resources, emphasizing the weaponization of environmental factors in colonial occupations.